Hey everyone, I'm Roddenberry. I'm here at Planet Hollywood for Julien's auctions, specifically for the Jean and Majel Roddenberry estate collection. I grew up with a lot of the things you're about to see, and I'm going to give you a little history on that. So let's go check it out. We've got a couple of these here. These are my mother's dresses from The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. Some of you may know, but she played a character on The Next Generation called Luoxana. It was Troy's mother, also my mother in real life. But they made these really outrageous, flamboyant dresses, which really complemented her character fantastically, because she was just over the top on the show. And for those of you who have met my mother, she was over the top. This was actually a perfect representation of her personality. In fact, I know that when they were made for the show, by Bob Blackman, I think, and his crew, they were just going to hang them back on the rack. And she said, no, I want these. And she took all of her dresses home, and she kept them. I never saw her wearing them around the house, thank God, but she knew that they were such unique and precious items that she wanted to keep them. And part of me sad to give them away, but I believe we're going to auction them off for a great cause. They're going to go to someone who really cares about them and who's really going to take care of them. So let's check out another one over here. This is another beautiful one that was made by the wardrobe department on Next Generation. And again, it's just beautiful how they're made. So these are the two entrance items into the auction. Let's head inside. Now this is kind of a mind trip for me. This blows me away because we're entering my house in a way, and it's just a little strange, but it feels good to see them here. These are a number of crystal pieces that my mother and father collected over the years. Some of them were gifts, some of them were purchased. This is a great dish with the family R on it. There was a room in the house that was kind of the white room, and it was the room I really didn't like to go into because it had a lot of the more valuable pieces and white carpet and white furniture, and I was always scared I was going to break something or get it dirty, and this was one of those pieces that was in there. My father was in the age of westerns and cop shows, and he wrote stories for Have Gun Will Travel, and I believe a number of other shows at the time. And I think he really sort of loved these pieces and kept them around because he was really in the Wild West of television. And I think that's what this really reminded him of. Well, a lot of people say that Star Trek was sort of the Western. They say, you know, instead of a six-shooter, they had a phaser. Instead of a horse, they had a starship. So in this case here, we have an assortment of items that belong to my parents, mostly my father. We've got some awards that he's received from either conventions or events. Over here it's the Motion Picture Sound Editors Award. There's two of those. I'm actually not quite sure. Well, it was given to the producer, and strangely, for those of you who don't know, these are not Star Trek. These are for the Lieutenant, and it is Best Sound Edited TV Series 1963, producer Gene Roddenberry. So it's kind of neat to think of my father outside of Star Trek and what he did before. I love seeing pieces like this. Most of these things were in his office. That clock has been sitting on his desk for at least 20 years. God, seeing all this stuff brings back so many wonderful memories. Moving down, there's other unique things. In fact, this little box back here, for those of you who don't know, my father actually used to smoke. Both of them did. And the story is that he quit smoking. When I was a little boy, I actually drew him, I drew pictures of him for, I guess, a class assignment when I was in preschool, God knows what. And I would always draw a picture of him with a cigarette in his mouth. And when he saw that, he decided to quit smoking because he realized that's how I saw my father. Bringing that back to this thing is a wind-up device that when you press that button, a monkey, I think is what it is, pops out of the back holding a cigarette. And you pull it out and it just kind of goes back down and grabs another one. My father also really loved motorcycles. In fact, he got me my first motorcycle when I was 4 years old, but my mother wouldn't let me ride it until I was 5. This was his motorcycle outfit, and it's kind of funny looking now because it was something you would see definitely I think in the 70s. But it's just one of those things that when we looked through the closet and we saw this, it was just, I'd say, amusing and something that I could reminisce about. So this slot machine here, I grew up with this. I remember it's definitely a nickel machine, And I remember I used to love playing it as a small boy. I didn't really know what it was, but I know if you put the money in here and these things lined up, you got money out of it. Now, I would find how to get into the box below where the money dropped and take all the money that I already put in, put it back out, and I would just spend hours just playing with this. This photo up here is definitely the one that I think of when I think of my father. We had a professional photographer come in and he shot this piece, and we had a number of them made, and it's just sort of the best way I like to see my father. Just brings in Star Trek, it brings in his personality, and it brings in our home. It was actually shot in his office, and the bureau that you see it on is part of a desk that he had custom made. And I'll take you to that right over here. Here's the actual desk that he had custom made for his office when we moved in. And it's really an amazing, beautiful desk. And again, I grew up with these things as little kids, so I know fun little things. I know that he would sit here, and his assistant or anyone who came to work with him or talk to him, if they needed a place to write, there was a little lever under here that would push that out, and they had their own little desk to work on. Those of you who are technology geeks out there, you will see this machine right here. It is an IBM computer, and it is definitely one of the ones he used during the Next Generation. And I just remember him typing on this, and it looked so cool and advanced at the time. This computer here, if you look at it, it's actually, my father kind of engraved his initials on here. I think this will definitely be one of the larger items. It'll probably go for some of the most money, I think. This is definitely a piece of history because it fits my father on so many levels. He was pretty much the first one to have a lot of these computers. In fact, I was told a story once that when he got this machine, he had it at his office on the Paramount lot, and all the other producers in all the other rooms would actually come down the hallway to come check out this new marvel of technology. Now, this is a portable projector. It is a 16mm reel projector. There's two reels that would go up here, and it would actually, you'd sort of take the housing off, feed it through. My father would take this from convention to convention, and he would show episodes of Star Trek as well as the famous blooper reel. And it's this exact one. And I remember, my memory of this is sitting in his office at our old house. I would sit in his office in the bathroom, and he would have this up on the counter, and he would play the Star Trek blooper reel for me, and I would just laugh. I would roll on my back laughing the entire time because it was so great to see Spock and Kirk slipping and messing up their lines. I didn't even know what the show was back then, but it was just a gag reel for me, and I loved it. This is actually a pretty unique piece. This has been around forever. It's leather, but it's so old that it's actually cracking. This is from the back of my father's producer's chair when he worked on either the original series or the first movie. This is a one-of-a-kind piece that was made specifically for him, and I'm sad that it is cracking, but it is very special. This is definitely one of the most used Roddenberry items in this auction. This is our breakfast table. My parents and I would definitely sit at this just about every day and have our coffee or whatever we were having at the time. This is definitely I wouldn't want to call it a family heirloom, but for some reason, this just feels the most home to me because I literally sat there every morning having breakfast. This is a wonderful piece to have in here. This was the formal dining room table. My parents had a lot of parties, and we would always have Thanksgiving, Christmas, you name it, around this table. And we would always have guests from all over. They were friends, they were family, whatever the case may be. My father always had the head of the table. There was usually just one chair here. My mother would sit to this side, and I would sit over on this side. And the guests and the rest of the family members would sit around. And I have a lot of memories about this. It is a beautiful piece, and I'm gonna kind of miss it. So here is my father's producer's chair. I showed you guys the back piece that is unfortunately cracking now. They've since replaced it with this canvas piece, and it says director. But this was the original one that my father used either on the original series or one of the first movies. And you can tell because here's the same cracked leather that says GR. And this is really a piece of history. This is him sitting on the set. He didn't direct, but he did come down to set to sort of make sure everything was going right. And From what I hear, from what people said, he wouldn't go down to tell anyone what to do, but he came down just to meet everyone and let them know that he really cared about the show they were producing with him. And I've had the best compliments about him from those people. The cast and crew really loved him. Well, I love looking at this photo. It shows my mother and father very in love, and it shows them basically on the set, I think, of one of the movies. I really do hope you guys appreciate what's out here and can come down and check it out. It's been a piece of my life. Of course, it's been a huge piece of their lives. This is really the stuff that's behind Star Trek, you know, behind the creator and behind the First Lady. So if you're a Star Trek fan or a Roddenberry fan, you gotta come to Planet Hollywood to check this out. We've got some amazing items, and the best thing about this is that all the money's going to charity. So it's going to be your donations, your money, that actually makes the world a better place.